It's old versus new. Today we're diving into a head-to-head comparison of two Harley Davidson legends built a decade apart. We've got the 2014 Dyna lowrider versus the 2024 M8 Softail, and we're breaking down key differences. We're going to see how far Harley Davidson has evolved over the past decade and determine if the M8 is truly better, or does the old twin cam hold its own against its modern single-shot competitor.
We're out here in Tennessee. We got my brother's 2024 Lowrider S out here. I'm pretty excited, and I want to do like a comparison because I ride a 2014 Dyna lowrider. So this is 10 years newer than my bike. So let's just get into it and see what Harley's actually done in the past 10 years. I'll do a riding review and kind of just tell you guys what I think. I know there was a lot of controversy when these first came out back in, I think 2018 or 19. Without them having the twin shocks, they just do the single mono shock under the seat. So now it's less Softail. You don't have the dual shocks on the back. Right off the bat, you'll notice they have the wider front forks. They did the inverted front suspension. I rode it. It's really nice. It's a little bit soft, but I do like the inverted front forks. I think that's an awesome upgrade. They kind of did a throwback to the Dyna Lowrider S, where it was the black and bronze and all the wrinkle black. So they did a lot of wrinkle black on this bike, which I like. You see all the fender struts, the motor, everything has got the wrinkle black. So if you're one of those guys that gets a bike and wants to get rid of the chrome, the Lowrider S in this year, it comes with a lot of wrinkle black. So that's awesome. And then also too, they did a smooth dash. They got rid of the gauges on it and they put the gauge up here on the handlebars, which I've always liked that, because when you're riding, especially if you change out your risers, go higher with your risers, then you got your gauge right there. And they did a analog tachometer, and then the speedometer is in digital. Besides the suspension and the engine, those are like the two main things they did. And this engine, I was really impressed with. I had never rode one of the M8 bikes before, but this is the 117, and the 117 compared to the 103 twin cam that I have in my 14 Dyna is night and day difference. I mean, right off the line, this thing's got a lot of torque in every gear when you get on it, even with it being bone stock. The amount of power it has, I'm really impressed. I don't know if they're calling these forward controls. It looks kind of like they're more of like a mid forward, a little bit farther forward than the Dyna lowrider, because those are like a 1 inch forward, or a mid that's 1 inch farther forward. So they're a little bit farther forward, but that's something you can always change out. As far as with the mono shock on it, I didn't notice it really handling much different than the dual shocks. It looks a little bit different, but if you're one of those people who runs bags, you can't even see it anyway. So overall, I'm really impressed with it. And I think if you're somebody who just wants to get on a Harley, ride, this is a great bike for that. You could throw a set of risers on it, throw a pipe, and then do like a Saddleman or a LaPera 2-up seat. And you got a pretty awesome little club style bike. So I didn't really want to jump on an M8 for a while, just because I was one of those guys who kind of felt a certain way about it being a Softail. But after riding it, I'm thoroughly impressed. One other cool feature that these M8s have is they have the 90-degree elbow on this air filter. So this is kind of a newer design they have for the air filter being forward like that, instead of the old school kind that normally sit back here. It does come out a little farther, but when I was riding it, I didn't feel like it was too much of my leg space, you know, because they 90 it and it comes out forward. So it's not as intrusive as you might think it would be. So one thing I will say is that after 10 years, they're still running the same kind of controls. They haven't really changed much on the controls. They're a nice powder coated black, very simple, kind of minimalist, which I really like. And especially on this style bike, you know, you're kind of trying to keep it minimal and just have the bare necessities. So they did a good job on that.
Got some Amish over there farming. The Lowrider S in this year kind of reminds me of the 2017, the last year, maybe 2016 they did it as well. But the Lowrider S model, when it was still the Dyna, and they had the bronze wheels with the everything wrinkle black. That's kind of what they did with this bike. You got your wrinkle black motor, everything just comes black from factory. I know when these bikes first came out, getting rid of the two shocks in the back was a big deal, and you know, I kind of prefer the look of it. But as far as the performance and handling of it, I don't really feel like it's that much different. If anything, it's smoother. I am really impressed with the throttle response though. But yeah, if you're just looking for a pretty solid bike right off the showroom floor, you throw a set of bars on it and exhaust and stiffen up the suspension, and you got yourself a pretty good club style, just good bike. Tell you what, it definitely does feel weird to be on a brand new bike compared to one that's 10 years old, or you know, the FXRs and stuff. They feel kind of like dinosaurs. Another thing I do like on this bottle is how they don't have anything on the tank here. You got your gauge up here on the bars, which is kind of nice. I prefer them on the bars, so especially when you get a nice set of risers on here, because I know on my Dyna I'm constantly looking down, you know, at my gauges and stuff like that. Me personally, I'm a little extended farther. I'd like to be about 1.5 inches farther back, and then I like to keep it just a little under shoulder height as far as for my back and just comfort. I'd probably run a Saddleman step up and an HPI exhaust. You do that and you've got yourself a solid setup. It does have a pretty good lean angle. Front brakes definitely work good. Suspension a little soft.
If you're interested in the late model Dyna, they made this up until 2017. If you go with a lowrider model, you'll get the dual brakes up front. You'll get the 49mm front suspension, the 103 or 110 twin cam motor, and then you still have 2 rear shocks on it. So in 2024, they got rid of the 49mm shocks and went with a 43mm inverted, and then they went with a mono shock on the rear. So you no longer have your pride and joy, if you're one of those Dyna bros, you know, your suspension. Everyone wants to talk about, oh, what kind of suspension you're running. And so you don't have that anymore. And then the motor it's a lot bigger. The 2024s are running the 117 M8. When it comes to riding that bike, it's actually about 20 to 25 horsepower more depending. And it's a big difference. It idles a lot smoother than the 103. So there's a lot of things to consider. It just depends on what you guys are really looking for. It does feel like this bike is a little narrower. The late model Dynas are not narrow compared to an FXR or an early model Dyna. And another huge change was the frame, because they had to change the frame to fit the M8 platform in it. One thing that I felt like I noticed immediately when I jumped on the 2024 is, yeah, I was riding a stock bike and this one has bigger suspension, but even when this one had stock suspension, I feel like the stock Dyna versus the stock Softail, the Softail feels a lot more lower and grounded than this does. So for being 10 years newer, I was kind of surprised that my 14 is running pretty much the same controls as the 2024. One thing they did do is, and some people like it, some people don't, is they took the gauges off the dash, and from factory they put them up here on the bars, which a lot of people like that, especially on these older model Dynas. A lot of guys will take the gauges off the dash and relocate them up onto the bars just so you can kind of have them in your field of vision. On a bike like this, you're gonna have to throw some serious cash in it to get it to the horsepower of an M8 is coming factory. And then you do have the inverted forks, which I've always been a fan of, just coming from dirt bikes and stuff like that. They're great suspension. Obviously you want to stiffen them up, because that's one thing, is you hit the front brakes and it's pretty soft. So which bike would I recommend? If you go the M8 direction, you have more horsepower right off the bat and you have a brand new bike. If you go with a 10-year-old bike, you get that hot rod style, you know, you get more of the vibrations. The M8 motor, they did some balancing in it, so it actually, at an idle, at a stoplight, it doesn't vibrate a whole lot. Whereas this bike's gonna vibrate more, rattle a lot more stuff loose. The newer suspension at higher speeds, you're gonna have it be a lot smoother than these bikes. I really do like the M8, but I really do at the same time like the Dyna, and just have your shocks back there, see it. It's just like that classic Harley look. And so for that, I really like it, but I do really like that M8 motor. I was really pleasantly surprised with how it handled and the performance and stuff like that. So if you guys have an M8 or if you guys have a Dyna, let me know what you guys think, which one you guys prefer. For me, probably just because I like older things, I like the FXRs. A Harley for me is more of an experience. And so I like that just old school V-twin, American muscle. You're on it, it's vibrating, and it's more immersive. I feel like the M8 is more of a modern vehicle. It's like getting in a new pickup truck versus getting in an old one. You're not gonna hear the exhaust, you're not gonna hear all the vibrations and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a matter of what you guys want. You can't go wrong with the M8. Really good bike right off the showroom floor. Throw a couple aftermarket accessories on it and you got yourself a solid bike. And I think that's why you're seeing so many of them pop up everywhere. Everyone's throwing a fairing on them and an exhaust, and you got a solid bike. They did a lot with it. It's kind of minimalist, but I think it's awesome. So those are my thoughts.